I'm Shay Jones, and this is the History of Aviation Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the History of Aviation Podcast. I'm Derek Beeler. We have a great one for you today, and we're going to dive right into this one. As always, I am joined by Will and Mr. Shay Jones, our wonderful producer. And today, we're jumping right into this because we have a very special guest for you.
Introducing Mr. Bob Yanacsek.
How's it going, Bob?
Very good. Chilly, but good.
It's the same situation we've got here, and we want to dive in because we want to get into talks about your company, the Frost team. But let's talk about Bob. You got some really cool flying stuff. You got some law enforcement, and what do you got for us?
A little bit of everything, yeah. So, I was a Air Force brat. My father did 22 years in the Air Force, flying gunships in Vietnam, and last tour was in Dover, Delaware, flying C-5s. And of course, like most things, once the aviation's in your blood, it stays for generations, it seems like. So, became a police officer. Public service was in my blood, and eventually got my pilot's license, and started flying and bought into a Focke-Wulf 149. It's a post-World War II German primary trainer that the Luftwaffe used to train their pilots, and flew that on primarily the East Coast and air shows up and down the East Coast, and did that for many, many years, and enjoyed the aviation and air show industry. It gets in your blood also. And during that time, I saw some accidents happen to friends of mine, and some things could have been prevented. So being from Charlotte, North Carolina, near the NASCAR headquarters, I watched races all the time, and they have the NASCAR safety team. And I often wonder why the air show industry of all industries doesn't have a specific rescue a team. So I created Frost, which we basically travel the air show circuit and optimize and assist the local fire department in that unique air show environment that most fire departments aren't used to.
And a lot of that, wouldn't you say a lot of that your team will know more about the aircraft itself that's in that situation to handle that, where your normal city firefighter or county firefighter wouldn't know where to turn the engine off or anything like that?
Absolutely. And that was, there were some incidents that resulted in deaths of some friends of ours. We realized that as a pilot, I'd go to some briefings, and a lot of the local fire guys wouldn't understand the systems on my aircraft, which is, to be honest with you, very basic. And I realized, being emergency service personnel myself, the air show industry and the organizers are actually putting them in a tough spot because they expect them to respond to a situation that was totally outside their realm of expertise. And our guys and my team, this is what we do. We do the air show industry. We have high-speed ATVs that are decked out with fire suppression and rescue tools, so we can meet that 1-minute response the FAA requires. We wear Simpson fire suits just like NASCAR safety team, and our helmets. We talk to the air boss and the pilots. And even this year, we started a thermal imaging drone aspect to our team with all the new night shows that are going on. We realize that if a pilot punches out or a plane goes down, especially in a rural area or agricultural area of the desert, it'd be a very difficult time finding them in a timely manner without some sort of thermal imaging. So we have a thermal imaging drone that's on standby the whole time that we're under the wave space for the air show.
That's fantastic.
It's very cool.
So, Bob, could you explain to us, what is Frost? And understand it's an acronym?
It is an acronym. So it's Fast Response Operational Safety Team. Being in the aviation thing, you had to come up with something that sounded cool and stood for something. So that's what we call it.
Now, Bob, I've got a personal question for you. Do you have a call sign?
Sure. I do. So my call sign is Trigger. Obviously, being in law enforcement for 30 years,
yes.
I got that. But also, it was funny. Yeah. I started a nonprofit years ago also that puts on an air show near Charlotte, North Carolina. This is year 25, I guess. And I was moving an A4 Skyhawk and I was actually moving the elevator. And unfortunately, I had my finger and hands in a pinch point on the elevator when we set the thing down, and it almost cut my finger off. And
Ouch.
I had to get 20 stitches in my trigger finger, but I also
Ooh.
had to take the plane to a air show that night. So I went and got stitches and had it all bandaged up. So I walked around at the air show like this for a couple of days, so everyone started calling me Trigger. That was it.
They can get you that name quick.
That's awesome.
One of my things that I was really wanting to discuss with you when we talked about having you on was what kind of training are your guys going through for this?
Right. So it's interesting. So we are the only company in the country that does this. And when you do multi-jurisdictional fire service or emergency service, it took a long time to get that approved through the FAA and local jurisdictions. So all our guys are ARF guys, which, the aircraft fire crash fire rescue guys. And each year we do training with our equipment. We review all the entry and exit systems on aircraft. So that's part of our service. We provide that to local fire department just in case something happens to us, heaven forbid. That's part of our training. We'll come into an air show early, and we have these extrication manuals that show how you open canopies and how do you turn off the mixture, the battery switches, how much fuel, where you should lift a plane, where you shouldn't lift a plane, things like that. So part of our training we do during the off season, our off season is actually fairly short. It's almost the same as a NASCAR schedule. We get together and review things and go over the aircraft that will be in the air show season for that year. And we pretty much know them intimately because, the air show industry is a very small group of people. And we see the same guys pretty much weekend after weekend. So we've become extremely familiar with their performances, their aircraft, their operations, things like that.
Is there any wilderness training involved in that?
A little bit. Yeah, it's
Okay.
interesting. We did the Reno Air Races, and that's a unique situation out in the desert. We do some places that are, swamps. Texas is an interesting state. You go from a swamp on the east side to desert on the west side, and there's always prickly pears or something that wants to put holes in your tires. So it's that and rattlesnakes. So
Yeah.
we do training with that, and we have guys that are specialized in high angle rescue in case we need to get someone out of trees or off a hill or something like that. But it's a passion for all of us.
You're on mute, Will.
Thank you.
Classic
Derek.
blunder.
Thank you.
Classic
I know.
blunder.
Bob, I've got a question. So, in your experience, what human factors show up most often in aviation incidents and accidents?
I'd say complacency, and we all do it. Whether you're in law enforcement or fire service or as a pilot, myself, we've all been there, and we tend to see more incidents, towards the end of the air show season. And I think a lot of it has to do with you get used to doing things a certain way, even if they're not the proper way. Planes do break, but just from our experience, and we study all kinds of air show incidents, and you go back to it, and it's usually some sort of human factor involved with that, and usually it comes back to you get used to doing something one way, and eventually it'll bite you. And the aviation, we all know, is inherently safe, but it's very unforgiving to even the simplest mistakes.
What are the most common misconceptions that either pilots or spectators have about accidents? When something happens, obviously the spectators are going to freak out.
It's I've been at numerous air shows as a performer myself, and even a spectator where I saw accidents. And being in the air show industry myself, or been into aviation a long time, I have a different perspective of what the public sees. It's hard to. I really should look into that, what the public actually thinks of it. And that's one reason why we are there. I've been to a couple shows that had instant, and the response was, well, it wasn't sufficient. And I think that gives the public kind of a bad taste when they witness something like that. So part of our goal is to protect the pilot. Yeah, that's ultimate. I don't want to see anyone get injured, but also just to protect the aviation airshow industry in general, because you don't want the public to leave with an impression that, wow, this occurred and they were totally unprepared for this, so maybe that industry should go away. And that's the last thing any of us want.
Now, to that point, are there ever any near miss like patterns that you see or recognize as the team? Something that just keeps happening over and over and over again, but maybe just hasn't resulted in something catastrophic yet?
No, it actually, the air show community, it used to be a little bit of a Wild West thing, way back in the days. But the International Council of Air Shows and the regional councils of air shows have done a really good job to police each other. And no one's shy to point out something that someone's doing, because they know, just like I said, that if something bad happens, not only is it terrible for someone to get hurt or killed, it's also bad for the industry, which that's their livelihood. So if an air show decides they're not going to do that again because of something that happened, that's bad for everyone. So I've seen firsthand pilots will go over to another pilot and say, hey, let's talk over a beer tonight because you need to work on some things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. It takes that phrase, see something, say something, to a whole new level.
Yeah, it does. And if one wanted to join,
and we do that ourselves. We are.
Yeah,
we'll call up the air boss, because we're in direct contact with them. We have an amazing relationship with the air bosses that operate the air shows, and we'll say, hey, what's going on with that maneuver? Let's have a conversation, because from my angle, we're right next to the runway. That looked a little hinky. And sure enough, just have a candid conversation and say, we don't want to see anyone get hurt, so let's work on that.
Glad you pulled it off. Probably shouldn't try that again.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
What I was curious about, if one wanted to join the Frost team, what kind of background would they need to join your team and be trained through your program?
Right. We're looking for firefighters, first off. And then anyone with any specialized ARF training. They need to have a passion for aviation and the airshow industry. Mm-hmm. It is, and I think anyone that applies obviously probably has that, but we sit in fire suits all day with the helmet on at 100 and 110 degrees, whatever the temperature is, ready to go for 8 hours a day, watching airplanes do the same maneuvers we've seen done all the time. Mm-hmm. So, and for me, I love doing it because it's just what I love. And for some, it may not be their thing, but it seems like everyone that's reached out to us and ended up on the team, they love doing it. It's definitely a small, tight-knit group of people on our team, but also just in the aviation industry in general. We do the International Council of Air Show convention every year, and you see the same guys, and you know them and their families, and it's a very personal relationship we have when we're out on the air show circuit, because we're not just protecting some stranger. We're protecting the guy that we've seen hundreds of times at dinner and at conventions. Mm-hmm. We know his family and we know his kids. So
I'm pretty sure you're going to know a good friend of the podcast here, Mr. Greg Kuntz. Greg joins us on the podcast all the time.
Who does?
Greg Kuntz.
He's a pilot.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I produced an air show in Monroe, North Carolina, and it's a Veterans Weekend every year, and Greg is at our show every year. So I actually had steak dinner with him in November here in North Carolina.
Yeah, he's a good friend of the show. Yep.
I was gonna say, it must be one of the only jobs in the world where you hope that you don't have to go to work, kind of, in a way. I hope that it's boring, nothing bad happens. Do you know what I mean? Like, because if you're doing stuff, something bad just happened and you have to hop to. So it must be one of the only jobs in the world where you hope I hope I don't have to go to work. I hope it all just goes smooth.
Absolutely. We sit in on all the pilot briefings. We train the fire guys before and after the pilot briefings, and we always tell the pilots, and they are very appreciative. They taxi by us because we usually sit right next to the runway, and they really like seeing us there. And we always tell them, it's like, hopefully I won't see you till dinner time.
Yeah, exactly.
That means it was a good day.
So, Bob, question for you: with Frost, how often are you interacting with military aircraft that remain still kind of secret to the public? You see a lot of F-22s and air shows that performing all kinds of maneuvers, and the world as a whole doesn't know that much about that airplane, right? So God forbid something happens with an F-22 or another project that other people's hands can't really be on. What does the Frost team do in the event that you've got a secret machine that's gone down?
Right. It is really interesting. And the military and the F-22 Raptor demo, even the F-35 demo, works really good with us. There are some things that they will show us and some things they won't. Pretty much, we will get hands-on, up close and personal with everything except inside the cockpit. And then they will describe it to us in detail as far as how to save ejection seats and things like that. But it's just, and it is pretty neat to have the ability to actually get hands on the Raptor, which is probably the baddest airplane out there right now. And to see how there's frangible panels to activate certain emergency systems to get pilots out, and there's no pins you have to move or anything. You're literally, if you have a glove on, you can punch right through these panels to access certain things. Just cool stuff like that. But they won't let us climb up in the cockpit. But they'll describe everything to us. Everything else on the plane is pretty much, they'll take us up in depth. Just nothing right up inside the cockpit. Same with the F-35. We can pretty much do what we need to. Other than that, and those planes, the great safety feature obviously is the ejection seat. And so the odds of something happening to the plane with the pilot still in it are very slim. Usually
you better hope to know how to do it, because he didn't tell you how to get him out. So you better hope he already knows how to get himself out of there.
We always say if a pilot ejects, we're going to go for the pilot. The plane is just, it's tax dollars wasted and spent right there. Mm-hmm. So we're not worried about that. Our concern is the pilot.
You got a burning pile of metal, and then you've got your human pilot that you need to go adjust.
Yeah, and Bob, let's jump in a little bit into your career in flying in air shows. You was telling us before we went on air about your aircraft that I believe really piqued Will's attention.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I owned when I got my pilot's license, I purchased a Piper Cherokee and flew that for many years, and was parking my plane at my local airport and saw in the hangar what I thought was an Avion, and talked to the owner, Mr. Bob Russell, and he said, no, that's a German Focke-Wulf 149. He bought it sight unseen from a gentleman in Germany in 1982 who said it was in pretty good shape, which he knew that was a lie, but he bought it anyway. And when they shipped it stateside, it took them 15, 16 years to get it all put back together in flying condition. But it's a beautiful airplane. It was basically ended up being pretty much a brand new airplane at the end of the restoration. And since then, Mr. Bob Russell passed away a couple years ago, and we ended up selling the airplane. It's now in San Francisco.
Wow!
But it's a beautiful airplane.
What is an air show run like for a air show performer?
So we follow the air shows. We follow the air show circuit, which is pretty much matches the our schedule matches the pilots, obviously. So we start the year. Our first show will be in Buckeye, Arizona, in a couple weeks. That's February. It's one of the first ones, and then pretty much from there on out, We are somewhere every other weekend. We do have a couple longer stretches in the middle. And we always like to say people, and it's not that it's not a glamorous life to be a air show, as we say, like a higher end carny, but you travel so much because our gear is in a 38-foot toy hauler, and you wake up sometimes and you have no idea what city you're in or what time zone, just because you've been on the road so much. But it is an amazing way to get to see the country and meet people all over the United States. And we always end the air show season with the International Council of Air Shows convention in Las Vegas. That's where all the air show performers, organizers, support services get together, and we have our big convention, and people make their schedules out, and that's where you meet the people and honor the ones you lost throughout the year, and get ready for the next air show season. I'm definitely blessed to be in the industry that I'm in. I mean, it was very. It's nice to perform a service that protects people, and plus I get to see the country, and who doesn't like to sit 30 feet from 4 or 5 F-18s, a full afterburner when the Blues take off. I'm sure I've lost some hearing in my days, but
that never gets old. That never gets old.
And we have relationships with those guys too. The jet teams. Yeah. They're not as personable as the other ones, but they're still just guys. And it just so happened that when we sat on these ATVs and side by sides along the runway, we seemed to be on the sneak pass of the Blue Angels at about Mach 0.97 at 20 feet off the ground, and they got me a good pass last year, and I got video of it, and it's pretty impressive. And that definitely never gets old.
No, that one don't. No. Go ahead, Will. You got a question?
No, I was asking, Bob, do you still fly?
I'm still current, but I just don't fly as much. I just don't fly as much as I used to, because, to be honest with you, I'm on the road so much. And even though I didn't do high performance aerobatics, I wouldn't want to do stuff like that just on a whim every now and then. So pretty much I'm 100% with the rescue services and Frost right now. But I still hop in a plane and puddle around the sky.
Awesome.
Well, we would definitely like to say that we here at the History of Aviation Podcast thank you for what you do.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bob. And thank you, Frost.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
And where can folks find all your website, social media, all that information for Frost?
Sure. We're on all the social media things, Frost Rescue Services or goforfrost.com, and it'll take you right to it. And it's some pretty fun content. You get to follow us on the air show season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we our TikToks are connected. Frost and the History of Aviation Podcast. We're pretty well connected there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's where I found out about you guys was TikTok.
Oh, nice. Yep. Yeah, it's
and you,
like I said, I'm very blessed. It's a really cool industry to be involved with.
Is there anything that you want to bring out to the public that you've been wanting to bring out that you haven't had time to yet?
No, I just think I encourage everyone to get out to their local air show. I'm amazed. I think this is year 25 for putting on the show here near Charlotte, North Carolina, Monroe. And I'm still amazed how many people that live in the city, it's their first time coming to the show.
Yeah.
So I think those that have never been to an air show are missing out on an amazing event. Very patriotic. You get to experience some stuff you never see before. You get to go to your local airport, realize that you actually have an airport, which a lot of people don't even know that.
Yeah.
And it's just a real great experience. I want the public just to get out there and enjoy air shows. It's an amazing industry.
Well, Bob, we sure do appreciate it. We look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Bob, thank you tremendously.
Yeah, definitely awesome. Come on back someday for sure.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Definitely. And that'll close up this episode of the History of Aviation Podcast for Will D., Shay Jones, I'm Derek Beeler. Thanks for listening to History of Aviation Podcast.